So in this video, I'm gonna be changing the intake boot and the crankcase ventilation hose. Now, previously I had already changed the other side until I realized they sent me the wrong ventilation tube. And while changing that side, I realized that BMW is so cheap that this side snapped as well. So I'm going ahead, I'm changing the other side. Now, one thing I learned with the driver's side is that you're gonna make your life a whole lot easier if you just go ahead and take this whole thing off. The thing was, is I couldn't find any videos where anybody actually showed them taking it off. Closest I found was one guy who said you can just pull it off. That's not true. This actually has 2 bolts underneath the air filters, and those will have to be removed before you can actually pull that up. So the first thing to remove this is we're going to remove these 7 bolts. They are T25s. Once you have the screws removed, you can just pry this up, come straight off. And I didn't show myself removing it, but there's an engine cover over here. It just pulls straight off. That's pretty simple. Now there's gonna be a bolt right here. It is also a T25. So now you're gonna see 2 bolts right here. They are T30s. And after you get those out, you're gonna want to loosen these up so that you can take these hoses off when it comes out. But before you do that, you're going to need to undo the MAF sensors. For the MAF sensors, I just unclip them so I can just kind of get them out of the way, and I leave them actually in the intake housing. I showed it on another video, but to get these little MAF sensors out of here, all you do is just pull this tab out, and then you can press it down and it will release. Now the other side will be upside down, but it's the same thing. This piece can be really annoying. It's got like these little rubber bushings under here that it just sits in, but sometimes they get really stiff, and then it's really hard to get this off. And with all this cheap plastic on here, I'm always afraid of breaking something. So just be really careful when you're pulling this off. Quickest and easiest way I found to get this off is to kind of brace this piece right here, and then get a flathead in here and just kind of pry up a little bit. Again, be careful though, this stuff is cheap. But you can see, just fits into those. These actually come out, but I realized because of how this sits in here that these hoses don't have much play. And since they're already very brittle, you won't have enough room to push this back to get these tabs popped out of here. So the best way to do it is just take this off this way. Now I've already loosened the hoses, but the last thing you're gonna have to do is these are also stuck under here. So again, these are cheap, they're brittle, so be careful raising this up. Again, easiest way I found to do this is to get a screwdriver under here, a flathead, and just slowly pry it until you can get to come up. It's recommended that you take the cables off of both batteries so they're not connected. I was gonna do that, but what I found out is with these cars, apparently you have to reprogram batteries if you do so. I don't believe I have software that can do that, so I found another workaround. But I'm not sure if it's on all of these or if mine's just missing a cap. I've heard of somebody else saying it as well, that theirs was missing, but there's a live wire under here that runs from the positive. You don't want anything metal to touch that. Now I've already undone these, so all we have to do now. All right, so here's what we're working with. We're going to be replacing this piece and this piece. Again, I've already changed the intake boot on the other side. I didn't go ahead and change the crankcase ventilation tube because I had the one for this side. And when I was working on that one, when I pulled this whole intake piece off, this snapped, this snapped. You can see the JB Weld right there. That's what I had to do because I still need this car while I was waiting for the new parts to come in. So we're gonna disconnect this. They have like little tabs. You're just gonna squeeze these down and it'll just pull right off. They are gonna be a little stiff, but it's really not that bad. As you can see on this one, once I pulled that off, this came right off. That's not supposed to do that. This is supposed to still be connected to another piece in the car. Here's our new piece. And let me go ahead and say, before you start taking apart your car, check the part numbers, check to make sure these match, because that's what happened to me. I didn't look to see if I received the right stuff. These are easy to see the part numbers. They're written right on top. I didn't look at the part numbers ahead of time, so I don't know if they actually sent me the wrong part or if just their description was wrong. I know I ordered the right description because I ordered for cylinders 5 through 8, which are on the driver's side. And obviously the hose they sent me was not the correct one. By the way, just check ahead of time. So the other part to that intake boot is right there. It's this right here. It's got a screw here and it's got another screw up under here. This one doesn't look like it's gonna be too bad to get to. The driver's side is actually a little difficult to get to. There's not a lot of room to work under there. But we're gonna go ahead and get that off first and then we'll move over to the crankcase hoses. And this bolt right here is just a T30. Just be really careful, do not drop these. Because I'm so paranoid about dropping the bolt, what I do is I just break it loose and then I start trying to get to it by hand. And then I have a telescopic magnet within arm's reach. Once the bolts are out, just pull this piece out. Now we're gonna go ahead and take this off and then we'll start putting it back together. So for this piece, you're gonna see you have a couple bolts. So if you're having a hard time getting to this one bolt over here, I just undid this reservoir so I can kind of get out of my way. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to take some stuff off to get this hose off. If you'll notice, it actually has tabs. So this has to rotate in order to get this off. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to focus on it, but there's actually a couple little slots in here that you can see this rotates into. So shout out to Bobby Drake from Beamer Post Forum, because I came across his post and I didn't hear anybody else mention the tabs and the rotation in any other posts or anything like that that I could find about these. So on a US spec car, you're going to have to rotate it clockwise on the driver's side and counterclockwise on the passenger side in order to get it out. Just so you get an idea, this is the angle that it has to rotate. I just let it drop down into the slots and you can see how the offset is. Same thing on this side. There's the angle. You're gonna be looking to line those up. You may not have to take off as much as I took off. This was just kind of a trial and error. I just started taking stuff off until I could figure out how to get this thing to rotate. But I'm gonna show you a little bit of me putting it back together on this side, just so you can see what all I did take off to get there. And that's it.